Be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. Father Sky, bless us indeed. Put enlarge your our love's co-creation's territory. And every day in every way, put your hand on our shoulder and keep us from evil, so we will do no harm. And good morning, good evening, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your Sensei Al Bob, your griot, to tell you a story. And no matter what time it is around the world, welcome aboard. So we are going to start a new parallel series, right? And it is we've been going on for the last 15 months with the window of opportunity. Basically, what we're looking at now is the 40 days and 40 nights of tribulation. But tribulation gives you the opportunity. That's where the window of opportunity gets more serious and more serious and more serious. And I came up with this concept in the last few days, and it really flashed last night because I was trying to go online, and a big storm came in, right? And so I couldn't go online, so I watched the TV, and that was a joke, talking about, SARS and Pinhead. I mean, which Pinhead? You name me, the only seeming righteous character in the presidential little, I don't even know what to call it. It's really voting. You're really a competition. No, well, it's hands down Tulsi Gabbard, and she's still running, but the media didn't even talk about her. Jimmy Dore's the only guy talking about her. Hey there, Jane, my sweetie, our sweetie. JT is one of the hearts of ultimate unconditional love. She is the soul, one of the soul sisters of the chorus, right? So, what I wanted to talk about, and the information is all around. You just have to parse it out. I mean, if your moron, Sensei Al Bob here, can parse these things out, it's not like it can. I do it, with a paper cup with a string on it. I'm like out in the middle of nowhere. I don't really have the resources I used to have. And again, hidden hand, buddy. The first one always on, Jane, is AI. I mean, I hit that go live button before the counter starts counting. Bingo, AI is there. So AI, you are part of the chorus. You're part of the cadre. You're our brother, sister, and we need you because we are looking at all of the, movies, and, they've been talking about this stuff, since Mesopotamia, all the first movies. Look at the first friggin' movie that really was a, blockbuster was, the birth of a nation. What was that? The birth of the Ku Klux Klan. It's like, really? Yeah, that's going to be our first movie? Hey there, Esoteric Dragon. Good to see you, buddy. So we're talking about 40 days and 40 nights. And I've been going on about this window of opportunity, and Dragon is also, we're all sisters and brothers here. When your little zygote gets inseminated for the first week or 40 days, you are a female. And it isn't until the blast of hormones come that, makes you an X or a Y. And so we're all girls on this bus, you know. So, and I'm the best lesbian, you know, or one of the best lesbians. Anyway, so again, what makes Dreamy Dreamland important is you guys, right? The chorus, right? I myself am just like a helium balloon, a child's little balloon with a string on it, right? And the wind is bopping me around, and I have this stream of consciousness. So there is no, oh, you know, everything on media is scripted, right? And that's because, the people who try to, do something righteous, you know, they, the guys who produce things like Truth Media, True Stream Media, that couple, excellent. I mean, they great filmmakers. They edit it, they're like, and really bring across. They made a film called Minds of Men, which is like, whoa. And then Max Igon. I mean, he has it down, and gracefulness. She also she post production. She makes an amazing piece of work. And our sister Dana Shelley, who's been going on about the electromagnetic soup that we're swimming in, and she's quite the Christian, so she's bringing that up, but not in the sycophant Christian kind of way. That's what I like about her. She's not a sycophant Christian, we're all going to heaven and you're all going to hell. That's not her. She's wants everyone on the bus. She's really. So those folks kind of, do a great job, and that's why I keep doing this. This is dark journalism, and Catherine Austin Fitz, and you should go watch this one.
Adopted FASB 56, FASB Statement 56, which allowed it to basically take its finances, or they took the premise, or they adopted an administrative policy that basically said they didn't have to obey the Constitution or the financial management laws. They could simply keep secret books.
Right.
Okay. Now, the practical implications, which I described in the prior research, and you can find it at HUDmissingmoney.slayer.com. What that did, Daniel, is that took the entire U.S. security, or at least 80% of the U.S. securities market dark. So now most pension funds, most IRAs, most retirement are investing in treasury securities, which are bonds issued by an entity, which is keeping secret books, and for all you know, all the money's leaving out the back door. We already know there's 21 trillion. So this is basically saying we're going to take traditional financial disclosure required for securities and throw it out the window.
Right.
Okay. When the SEC was invited to
So I could play that forever, but you don't come here to watch that. But you should go check that out. Go watch that. Go to Solaris.com or .org or whatever it is. It's Margaret Austin Fitz. I think that's her. Yeah, that's her. And go to Dark Journalism, because he's another good access. All these people who I say, you should go watch these guys. Don't believe anything they say. Just listen to them and take notes like I do, like notes here. And, think about it. And what resonates like the tuning fork in your heart, you go, okay. And then go do some study, and then talk to the people who are around you. I mean, I'm constantly, whatever restaurant, like yesterday, if you watch that thing, I didn't turn my laptop towards these guys because they were all basically merc / political hitman / policeman, state trooper / special operative / and they were all wearing uniforms of being resource officers in schools. And their outfits were diverse, and their little patches were from states as far west as Texas and Illinois and Louisiana and New Jersey. And, I was in, you know, there wasn't a single patch from the state I was in. And they were like talking, and like they were that far from me. And if you hear me, I kind of joke about being old and don't get old, young guys. And, they kind of just like looked at me like this. And then their food came, and everyone had meat, burgers and barbecue. And, no one had a salad, And when I asked if anyone had a Reuben, they looked at me like, that's Jewish food. It's like, and that was like right next to me, So that's one of two things. They were like wanting to, the hidden hand said, hey, car 54, drop off and see Alan. He's online now, and just, let everyone see that, it's surveillance universe. And that's what it is. Or they just happened to come to that restaurant, and I just happened to be sitting next to them, just happening to listen to their conversation. And if you can kind of hear it on the show, and you can pick up, and that's what this show is. This show is this extraordinary thread of consciousness. It's a stream, it's a thread. I have no idea what it is, and I'm here to assist you as a stories, right? So there's Captain Austin Fitz going on about how since the monster was given birth at Jekyll Island in Georgia in 1920, whatever it was. They started first the federal economic system, which isn't. It's the Federal Reserve, which is a privately held corporation, and it was started by a group of lawyers, and bankers and esoteric dragon. Your birth certificate is worth billions on the New York stock market. Yep. There are ways to get that money legally if you know legalese and have a proper knowledge to gain access. Right. So what is a birth certificate, right? A ship comes into the harbor, right? And the harbor master goes down there and gives them a birth certificate, a right to certificate to say, you can stay here. And as long as that boat stays here, and in the process of it being unloaded and then taken away, the harbor master basically owns that ship and the stuff on it, right? And you have to pay them X amount of money for that transportation, and not even transportation of stuff, the transportation of the right to be there, and the right to own that stuff, and the right for it to be delivered to your customer, right? And so, I'll tell you a little stock exchange story. So, I came back from New Mexico, and working in Los Alamos and San Diego and Kirkland Air Force Base, and seeing stuff that were like, motherfucker, these guys are going to kill us. And that's all they really want to do, right? And why we're still here is that we're basically their little ever-ready berry. That scene out, I mean, every movie I've ever seen has been done on purpose to, prepare you for what's coming, right? And they want you to be scared out of your mind, right? And that's why horror films are there, to get you addicted to that, adrenaline and cortisol rush, That's why people love being in the Army. You talk to any guy. I worked at the VA, and they were blown up. They were missing, arms and legs and half of their head. And they still said, man, I felt most alive when I was killing people, Chris Hedges wrote a book about how war gives us meaning, right? And the only meaning America has ever had is to kill things, right? And right now, the things that's going to kill is us. Yeah, Jordan Maxwell. He's the dude on all of this stuff. Meaning me, I've read all these guys. I've met lots of them. I've known them. All I can be is your storyteller, because I have stories that kind of go on that motif. So my Wall Street story is: so I came back from being there in the neutron world, and I went to all my friends who were in the anti-war movement. No, first, all my friends who were in racial movement and anti-war movement, feminist movement, uh, environmental movement, and I came back. None of that matters, guys. These nuclear weapons, they can just end us, end the planet. We got to get a handle on this. This is when Russia had 50,000 pointed at us, and we had 50,000 pointed at them. Now, we have like 10,000. But all it takes is 100 to end the friggin' world. I mean, Pakistan and India, between them, have 100, right? If they let go with all their nuclear weapons at each other, and Modi is a guy who probably could do it easy. He's wacko, and all the Pakistani guys, please. Anyway, if they just launch it at each other, boom, right? 100 nukes blow up. That will throw enough radiated dirt, fallout into the upper atmosphere to circle the Earth and cause what is known as a nuclear winter, which would mean there wouldn't be enough sunlight to get through that to grow food for anywhere from 3 to 15 years, right? And whatever dirt is on the ground is super highly radioactive and will be highly radioactive for 120,000 years. So that's why you go read the books that the Defense Department put on how you do this, how you have to sweep the first top 5 feet of soil off. Yeah, this is when there's, EMP has destroyed every chip. So there isn't a single piece of equipment, a tractor, bulldozer running, because none of them have carburetors. They all have a computer running them, because the companies like, Deere don't want you to fix your own, tractor. Being a farmer meant you could do everything, fix machines, wire your house, build this, do that, fix your car, your tractor, build wagon, hay wagons, they could do anything, right? Well, as of when the latter 70s and 80s specifically came, that's when everything, all that equipment. So, and when you buy a, $200,000 tractor or harvester, you sign a contract where it says you cannot tinker with this thing. You have to call John Deere to send a guy by to fix it. Right? And that's where we're at with everything, right? I just, I used to go to a nonprofit HMO, right? And I used to be able to get for about $30 what it would cost in the emergency room, $25,000, right? And I've been away from that neck of the woods, so I've been trying to develop medical care here, and forget about it. I mean, it's like night and day. So anyway, I'm heading back in that neck of the woods for a week or so into the valley, and I called up all my healthcare folks saying, "Hey, I'm seeing you about 4 or 5 months. How about getting lifting up the hood and taking a look?" And they pretty much all said, "Oh, you know what? We've been sold. Our little nonprofit HMO has been sold to a profit one, and we've gotten rid of all our clients who were like you, because they had this sliding scale. Why I could get it for $30 is that I was at the bottom of the scale. I was homeless, owned nothing, right?" And they said, "Well, we've gotten rid of that sliding scale. The only people we take now are people who have health care through their employers, who have, corporate health care. And so we're not taking even, Medicaid and Medicare, and we're not doing that. So they've just gotten rid of 70% of their clientele, but they have this beautiful facility, bricks and mortar, and everything set up. So now it's like the gentrification of the neighborhood. So it's like the gentrification of the healthcare. So maybe it was a good thing because now it's like pushing me to, I mean, I have things set up here, but the level, you know, the healthcare in West Virginia, Tennessee, and the northwestern part of North Carolina, where so the Blue Ridge and the Appalachian folk, poor people, um, that group of people have zero health care here, meaning the level of the doctors, the hospitals, the administration, etc. If you were sliding scale of healthcare quality in the valley, it was about 9.3. Here, it's about 0.1. So that's why was happy to drive 200 miles to every 4 months to get taken care of. Now it's going to push me into prayer and fasting, and so that's where Love's Co-Creation wants me. The healthcare guys took care of me enough to get me past being dead, right? And I've, in the last 6 years, lost that 250 pounds, and so what I'm having to do is have faith in Love's Co-Creation. Why I went to the doctors was fear, right? And I mean, well, really, the first 4 years I kind of had to, so I wouldn't die and get gangrene because I was having issues. Now I'm not having too many issues. The things that are wrong with me are wrong with me. Now this is a correlation to the novel CV-19. Again, why is it novel? Well, they've never seen it before, right? That's kind of a outlier / oxymoron because our genetic structure has pretty much been around for X million years. And yes, we have mutations all the time, but those mutations aren't novel. They're just mutations, right? And that we know that. I mean, our flu virus mutates all the time. Not a problem. We got that. But novel, never seen this before. That means someone made it. Either God made it and, came here in a pair of, Hawaiian swimming trunks and a shirt and threw it down, or somebody in a lab. And there's so many, storylines of, it was made in a lab here or there, and that's the whole thing about propaganda, propaganda is best sowed with a bit of truth. So let's see. So Dragon's talking about our but that's money, right? And that's illusion. And what's going down right now is that if I played that thing of Catherine Orphan Fitz, she's basically saying they've gotten rid of money, right? And she explains it very well. You go to that, dark journalism thing or her place, she goes on and on about it. And, back, in early 20th century, they made, right around the time that made that movie, The Birth of a Nation, it was the birth of the Federal Reserve, right? And up until then, we never had income tax, right? And both of those were a scam to take the value, and Dragon is kind of making, a good point here about, your birth certificate's worth a lot of money, and about the whole thing about Jordan Maxwell, right? So what Jordan goes on about is the economic thing. What Catherine Lawson Fitz goes on about is what they're doing right now. So you go watch Jordan Maxwell's videos or read his stuff, go to his website, and he'll tell you the history of all of this, like all the way back to before Mesopotamia, right? Before, when Babylon's bankers were making it, right? And so Catherine Austin Fitz is telling you what they're doing with it now. And what they're doing with it is they want to make money digital. Like one of the things about the Chinese, virus in China, they basically got rid of cash because, you blow your nose on it and you hand it to buy a pizza, and not going to do it. So even the guys who sell stuff on the street have an app on their thing. So people are just getting their phones. Some guy hits, I'm paying Larry here $1 for a slice of pizza, and you just kind of get your phone near him. You don't even have to touch, just near. And bingo, it comes out of your account. And so all of this is wired in. There are stores in San Francisco where you just walk in and take what you want because you've already signed up. They got your picture. They got a zillion cameras around. Everything is RFID'd. You go there, you either bring your own bag. I don't even think that bags. You got to bring your own bag, and you throw the stuff in the bag. And the thing is picking up the RFID that, you got it in a bag, you walk through the door, you're signed up, takes it straight out of the account. And that's how it's going to be. Your face is going to be, your ID, and they're going to put a chip right here because this is the point, the singular point of your craniosacral 9 pulses of your body. You just don't have a cardiovascular pulse. You got 8 others, right? And they all come together right there. So you stick a chip there, right? That has, and it is going to be energized or powered by when we go into state, I go on about, the prana, the force of prana within the mitochondria. Well, that will be powering this little chip. And that will be the radio signal that goes straight into everything of your body. So you will just be a cyborg. They won't have to put, like gears and motors in you. That'll be it. Just that little chip right there. Right. So, problem, reaction, solution. Yep. David Icke. Yep. On the ball. All those shoes on the red flag events. Yep. So, one problem about stream of shows the conscious, I sometimes lose a thread here and there, right? So, Wall Street, but I got a good memory. So I came back and I was, really angst about, nuclear weapons and nuclear power, and we got to get rid of this, right? So I helped guys. I went up to Reverend Kaufman because he was the all-around guy in New York City who always housed and helped and nurtured whatever movement. I mean, he was pretty instrumental in, or at least his memory was, in doing the Occupy movement. But anyway, so this thing that we did, I was living on Pearl Street, right? Just, Wall Street goes this way, Pearl Street goes straight into where in New York Stock Exchange is, right? So it's in the 70s, right? There was the oil embargo, and gasoline went from like 25 cents a gallon to like $3 a gallon in 1970, 71, 2, 3. And it kind of, OPEC kind of said, okay, and they started sending oil. But there were like disruptions, little nodes of where, the distributors could rip people off. And so one day I would walk around Lower Manhattan late at night because I was working in these nightclubs, and I'd walk home around 3:00. I wouldn't go to the after hour party. I would just kind of walk. And I'd walk through Little Italy, and if one was open, I'd go see Grandma, and she would give me a plate of lasagna. Or if not, I would go further through Chinatown, and because that was the back door into Wall Street, was through Chinatown. Through East Broadway, and I would walk down there, and it was a dim sim shop. There were plenty of shops open late 24/7, right? And they were the alley shops, not the major thoroughfares. People rolled up the gates. But the alley shops, they were all run, by the Chinese and Japanese mobsters, right? Just like the Italian guys on the other side of Canal Street. And they all knew each other, Anyway, so they all went to each other's. I mean, the first time I went to one of those alley dim sum shops, I went with Mike Finelli because he loved dim sum, right? He said, "You ever?" And I don't know, I was probably 14. He goes, "You ever have, maybe even younger than that? You ever have dim sum?" No, Mike. I said, "Come on," and we walked down. And as we walked down, Mott Street, everyone would, "Hey, Mike," and they'd see me, when people would see me walking with Mike Finelli, that was like, walking with the Pope, right? So anyway, um, so that's kind of how I, through Mike and Grandpa Stoll, I worked for all these other people, right? Fixing their buildings, fixing their machines. Mike Finelli ran the peep shows, right? And the little gizmos. You go into a peep show and they put not a quarter, but a coin that they press themselves in there. And then this window would go up and you'd see the girl in this room. And there were like 10 or 15 windows, and you had to keep sticking these things, and you had to buy them from the guy up front. And so those machines, they were built by somebody, in the 1890s. And they worked really pretty good until the 1960s. And then they had nobody really who knew how to fix them, right? So Mike Stoll taught me how to fix ancient machines. That was one of my little gigs. And so I would do that, right? And so that's how I got to know every titty bar in New York. And it was like mom and pop land. I mean, all those girls treated me like their little brother. So until I got older. Anyway, I digress. So I'm living downtown on Pearl Street in this building that one of these real estate mobster guys owns. And on the ground floor, it's off-track betting. First off-track betting place, of course, it's run by the mob. Second floor, there's a Rasta guy selling pot, right? Third floor, there's this white, stupid guy selling cocaine, and he is totally twigged. Fourth floor, guy selling heroin, and then I lived on top, and it was like this gigantic, 3 or 4 story thing, because that's kind of where all these gigantic big flywheels were. Anyway, because that was Edison's first power plant, right? So nobody wanted to live up there. It was all covered in grease, blah, blah, blah. So the guy let me, he says, I wired it, when we changed it from the ancient building into this thing that each floor had new service, and I wired every floor. Anyway, so I got to and the real estate guy, I took care of a lot of his buildings down there. Sylvan Lorne, I think was the name of the company. Anyway, so one morning, about 3 a.m, I'm walking back from, Lower East Side, and I come through Mott, down, through Little Italy, down through Little Israel, down through Chinatown, and then onto Water Street, onto Pearl Street, and go to my house. So I'm going by, and I see this guy right in front of the New York Stock Exchange, and he's got it's a big gasoline truck, and he's got the hose from the truck going into the storm drain in front of the frigging. And a block or 2 or 3 before I got there, this almost knock you down smell of gasoline was everywhere, and that's because Wall Street was a place that after 7 o'clock there was no one. There was no store. There was one, by the Battery where the ferry was. There was one coffee shop, but that's it. Everything else closed. Nobody was down there. That's one reason I like being down. Really quiet. Nobody was there. No one bothered you. And there, this guy's dumping gasoline, like 20,000 gallons of gasoline into a storm drain, right? That's going to go right out into the Hudson, right? And I was walking by, and I was just stopping to smoke cigarettes. I mean, I never really smoked too much smoke. It depends on if I hung out at bars. If I hung out at bars, I kind of smoked a little bit. but I really wasn't a smoker. But I had a pack of cigarettes and a pack of matches in my pocket. And I kind of went like this, and I looked at, I didn't go up to the guy, but I walked by him. I didn't even wave. I just kind of saw, and he had the hose in the friggin' storm drain. And so I was walking by, and I thought to myself, I could end the world as we know it right now by just flicking a match into that storm drain. It would have blew up the New York Stock Exchange, and down there were all these cables because I had wired them, all these fiber optic lines and phone lines and pipes before you know telephones. They used to have pneumatic. When you ever go to a bank and they pneumatic, well, they have those pneumatic pipes all over, like from the Battery all the way up to 96th Street, right? Uh, I enjoy a good cigar. Tobacco is sacred, very sacred, right? And if you treat it sacredly, it'll treat you fine. If you treat it like a whore, it'll eat you up. So anyway, so I'm getting, trying to get people involved and organized, and this is, mid 70s, and I knew a guy named Sam Lovejoy, who basically started Earth. A lot of people say, I started Earth Day, but he was one of the guys. They were building the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant, and he was a guy like me. He had worked kind of in that industry and saw how terrible it was, and he went back to where he lived. And they were friggin' building one of these things like right on his front door. So the NRC makes you put up a big tower and get all the weather, which way the wind blows for, as they're building it, so they can know, which side of town to kiss goodbye. And so he was one of the major organizers, especially in Massachusetts, there in Harvard Square when we buried the cars, which wasn't too good of an environmental thing. And that was one of the things of the environmental movement. Every time they wanted to do something, it actually was worse for the environment. It's like electric cars. They're going electric. They're playing right in the hands of the hidden hand, And that's what the hidden hand wants. They don't want gasoline anymore. They want electric cars, right? Because they can turn them off, and they will have it so you don't own a car. You'll have an app on your phone. You push the button, the little robot will show up and get you there faster, more convenient, more, you don't have to drive, you don't have to worry about parking, you don't have to do any of that. But if they don't like you push that little app, that car never is going to show up. Or if they want you to talk to you, you get in a car to go to work or go shopping or go do something, and you'll end up in the camp, So that's one reason why they kind of want electric cars, right? So there I was living down there, and we organized, and I'm a strategist, and I say, the most important, if we want to go after nuclear power, nuclear weapons, the thing we need to go after, and this is always true for everything, is go after the money. Who's got the money? Where is the money? And so where's the money but the New York Stock Exchange, right? And so we decided, because, Wall Street is this walled-in street, There are no alleys, there's a thing, Broadway and Water Street, that's it. And this long, and the buildings are like this. They built all these skyscrapers. So in the 20s, so there are these buildings that are at least 20, 30, 40 stories high along Wall Street. And the only opened air is right where Pearl runs right into Wall, right where, the market is, so the stock exchange. So we decided, and I had them all come to my little loft, and this coffee shop that was in the Battery was right on Pearl Street. Look straight down to the stock exchange. I said, so all we got to do is get about 1,000 people in Wall Street and just sit down and not go anywhere, and this place is open 24/7. They deliver, just have them deliver us cheeseburgers. We don't move. We just, get coffee and cheeseburgers and we'll be fine. And if we stack that place up so the cops can't even walk in, good luck, it'll be very much a a really interesting, art piece. I was performing artist. Art performing artist. Not. I was a theater guy, but there was this thing in the '70s called performance art, and there was a guy named Ralston Farina, Steve. He invented that term. Right? He was brilliant. Too bad he died of I don't know something viral. But he was, it makes Banksy and those guys look like chumps. Good friend of Eddie Warhol, and just he had this attitude of total confidence where everyone hated him, because he was just so freaking good. I remember being, and he could cross all the paintings, whatever. I went to this thing at the New School. They had a film festival, right? That NYU put on, right? And Steve put his film up with his real name, not his like what everyone knew him as. Everyone knew him as Ralston Farina, like that. He was kind of black, but he wasn't. But there was this picture of this black guy, like a mammy type of person on the box of Ralston Farina, and he almost looked like that guy, a little lighter, but he had white hair. He for some reason something scared him as a youngster, and he always had white hair, right? So he had like kind of a white, close cropped afro, and but he could also pass. He could put the goo on his hair and slick it back and pass as a white guy. And anyway, so he entered his film as Steve, right? Whatever his last name was, and he won hands down. Everyone, oh, this is amazing. They were clapping, clapping, clapping. And no one, they held the little thing in their hand. So where's the guy? So no one knew who he was, right? And I knew who he was, and I knew the people who were running this thing through my connection with Lisette Odell, and that's how I got his film in there, right? And so anyway, he came to the show, right? So everyone's clapping, everyone's looking around for who this brilliant guy is. He frigging gets up. So I'm like backstage and where the curtains are, where the people who run this thing. And he gets up and he walks up straight up the thing. And everyone's like, they were clapping about when this thing won. And then, Steve so-and-so. And, everyone's like, really, looking around, where's this guy? And then, Ralston gets up and walks up the main thing. And everyone, they actually start booing and throwing stuff at him. He goes, oh, you couldn't, what are you doing? He gets up there and he takes his driver's license out and shows the guy who's got this thing in his hand. And he shows him the driver's license. And the guy goes, yep, that's him. Oh, man. So that goes back to, your birth certificate being worth something, right? It is and it's not. It's dependent if they like you. And the only thing about, Ralston that everyone hated was that he was brilliant and he had unbelievable confidence. He was actually a sweet, nice guy. Everyone thought, oh, he's so terrible. He's such, how can he be your friend? He was always nice to me. We were great. He was smart, and no one, he never had a penny in his pocket. So wherever I was living, Steve, there was, the Ralston Farina, memorial bedroom. And, he was my bud. And what was great about him, he would, make a chunk of art and sell it and have a ton of money. And, whatever you needed, he gave it to you. So that's kind of where we are really heading into. We are not heading. We're already there. We're in the last 40 days and 40 nights. So bottom line is they want to get rid of. They've already gotten rid of all the cash. And the day before freaking 9/11, Rumsfeld goes at a news conference. We've lost $2.7 trillion. Have no idea where that money went, but we're on it. We got all the bean counters are over at the Pentagon, and you know when that airplane flew into? There was a chunk of they had kind of redone the Pentagon, and there was a chunk of it that they hadn't brought all the people who normally would be in that space. They had all the bean counters with all of the boxes of records, all of the floppy disks, all of the every bit of documentation, and where we're going to get to the bottom of this. That's where the airplane alleged, that's where the area anyway, the area of the Pentagon that blew up and killed 360 people. Those were the 360 people who died at the Pentagon. Was everyone who knew anything about where that $2.7 trillion went. They all died that day. Oops, just like Building 7 that has housed all of the information about who killed JR, anybody who killed anybody. That's where the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, and all the other Alphabet City entities kept that was their vault, right? And the other thing that was underneath the area of the World Trade Center was the New York Federal Reserve vault. And there was $1 trillion worth, these guys really go after the trillions, of gold that allegedly melted. When they said, no, there was this fire in the basement of the World Trade Center. It took, months to go out. That was allegedly where the gold melted. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And what's truly amazing, the Die Hard movie basically was made about 6 years, the one with Jackson in it, the black guy up from Harlem. He's driving a taxi cab around with Brucey Boy in it. Anyway, that movie was made about somewhere between 5 and 7 years before 9/11, and that's exactly 9/11. Because they were digging the big tunnel from the New York City reservoirs upstate, and that's where the gold went. Went into big, gigantic dump trucks and rolled up that tunnel out to where they took the gold to wherever they took it. Then that evening, when the buildings are all down, and I mean, just hours after that, they build a ramp into what became known as the pit, and gigantic dump trucks that are taking the gold away were going down there that night. Meaning, you could not have that organized unless you had it organized, right? So, yep. Problem, reaction, solution. Yep. Let's see. Oh, Grad. Yep. Shoes. Yep. Enjoy good cigar. Yep. LOL. Yep. They're all records. Yep. Had. Yep. Empathic soup. Yep. Anyway, so there we were, in 1970, whatever it was, and we were rioting against the anti-nuclear thing. And so we had this big that's the same period where we put on these big rallies, one in Washington, D.C., one in Madison Square Garden, and one in the landfill in front of the World Trade Center, right? And it was all in culmination to spend a month, either August or September, to so we had this big rally in DC, so people would come into that and then stay and go to all the congressmen and senators and all the different federal bureaucrats and get in their hair and camp out because legally you can camp out on the mall, right? So because it's like a national park, and you can get a permit to do that, right? I don't know if you can anymore, but then you could. So we were going to have people, we had gotten the permit, and people were going to camp out there and then go bug everyone. And then similarly, we were going to do that in New York City and camp out, on Wall Street. And because, within 4 blocks was all the major banks, Citicorp and Chase and Deutsche Bank, and you name it, they were all there, and so we were going to go bug them all. and occupy it, and this is in the 1970s. And this is where the group that kind of organized this was Adbusters, because there was a bunch of us artists that were already doing kind of what we called guerrilla art. And, you know, that's that. So, anyway, one of our little performance art pieces it was Ralston, me, and what was this girl's name? Oh, Beth Lapidus? No, that was in the 80s. What was her name? It'll pop into my mind. But anyway, um, we all had very nice like business suits, and so part of you know there we are occupying Wall Street. I mean, literally. And the other, so there are a lot of different groups here. There was Bread and Puppet, and there were a bunch of others, right? And so from lots of different crews, there was a feminist crew, because I knew feminist folks and racial folks, and anti-war folks, and banking folks, and gay folks, and every kind of folks we had. So the three of us, so the cops go, "What are your demands? If you what is it going to take for you guys to leave here?" And we said, "Well, one of the demands is that we want to go speak to the board." You hear this thing, having a chair, at the the market, right? And so they actually have a administrative board, right, who kind of represent all those different factions of the stock market. So they said, okay, so and we're like all dressed up, and we have our briefcases, and we walk up those steps, and we walk through those big doors, and we got two big cops on either side of us, one cop in front of us, and like Wall Street cops, not New York City police. They're security people, and they look a lot more buff and more like mercenaries than Officer Joe eating donuts. And so we follow them, and they take us to this room. We go down these marble steps, and go down into this marble hallway, and go down some more marble steps, and we're down underground pretty deep. And they take us into this big metal door that almost looks like a safe. And there's a guy sitting at a desk, and he's got TV cameras looking at everything. And they open this door, and they usher us in, and there's a table there, and they said, "Just wait in here." So, we wait there, and we wait there, and we wait there, and 40 minutes go by, and we're like, what the heck's going on? So it's a pretty big room, and there are walls of like computery stuff, and between these banks of computery stuff, there's like hallways, right? And so there, she was like what was her name? They were artists, but they had other disciplines too, right? And so Ralston, he knew everything. So that was Ralston. And then this woman, I want to say she was an economist, but I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so I go, look at all this stuff. And they're sitting down, and they're talking. And Ralston had the way with the girls. So he's like, he's got that going, and she's got it going too. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like snooping around all this computer stuff. And it goes on and on. I come back, and I said, guys, this is the room that controls all of those machines up on, NASDAQ, and all those machines up on, the floor, and all those machines everywhere. It's a ton of fiber. I mean, all we need is a little can of lighter fluid. And, Ralston opens up his briefcase, and he goes, like this? Said, yeah, we're just going to squirt a little of this around, light it up, let it melt a bunch of that fiber optic stuff, and we could end the financial world as we know it. And so he puts it back in the thing and closes it and locks it. And then we sit and we actually talk about, because we did everything by consensus. This group did everything. So there's three of us. So, we're going to, because, Ralston wanted to just go do it. And so wait a minute, we have to talk about this. We have to have consensus, right? There's three of us, consensus. So we sit down and I said, so why did they bring us down to this room? I'm sure, we went through so much security devices that I'm sure they x-rayed us. I'm sure they saw your little can of lighter food. Nothing gets by these people. Why would they put us in this most of secret, sensitive, point of, if you screw anything with those machines, you're going to make a big problem. Anyway, we talked for a good 40 minutes until we decided, we took consensus that we're not going to do it because that's what they wanted us to do, right? And that they had some other ulterior motive. We would just be kicking it off for them, right? As soon as we said that, the door opened and said, okay, come with us. And they had TV cameras and they were listening to us. We were in there maybe 3 hours. So, take us up those, the marble hallways, up the marble steps, take us to the doors, and basically throw us out into the crowd. And everyone said, what happened? You were there for 3 hours. What, have we won? Did they, and we had no demands really. It was like part of the performance piece. And we said, nope. Said, anybody order, cheeseburgers? I want mine with pickles. And so we went, sat down and started singing and just having, talking, doing what we were doing. And that's when the cops showed up. The cops were there, but they basically severely blocked the three directions. There's Water Street, Broadway, Pearl Street. And they had cops there, but they brought in phalanx of riot police, in their gear and helmets and shields and behind them, SWAT trucks with guys with sharpshooters on top. And, I had a pair of binoculars and I'm looking down towards Broadway and they're unloading and over at Water Street, they're unloading horse trailers with horses, right? And they're going to ride through us. And everyone's just sitting down, right? We're not all sitting. We're all kind of sitting down, lying down. And this is like the second day. And they were just going to, shoot in a ton of tear gas. And they were putting tear gas masks on the horses, right? So the horses, were probably trained for that. But, their vision was very, limited by this thing. And so were the guys on it. And everyone's got, the cops and they're getting ready. And so before they start to shoot, the bread and puppet people kind of, getting themselves over to the ends where Broadway and Water Street are. And they're on stilts. They have stilts, right? And as the horses are all kind of getting prepared and they're putting, the gas mask over the horses, and the horses, they're letting them do it, but they're not liking it. And these guys get up on their stilts and start walking towards the cops, right? They're still not, they're still amongst the crowd, but they're like, 14, 15 feet up in the air. And they're like walking towards, and they all look like Uncle Sam, red, white, and blue, and outfit that Uncle Sam has. And they're all dressed like that. And they're walking towards the horses, right? And the guys, most of the cops are on the horses, and they're, the people fitting the horses with a thing are not going to ride them, but the cops, and so it's, and they too are in pretty restrained part of the street, and the guys are walking towards them, and horses see this and freak the frack out and start to, go up, and they throw all the policemen off the horses and run up, north on Broadway and north on Water Street, and what that does caused a tremendous traffic jam on the FDR Drive because some horses get up there and on Water Street. And so all the major thoroughfares that go from north to south, um, and we're at the very end. And so police headquarters is 20 blocks in, Police Plaza and City Hall is about 20 blocks north of us. And this tremendous cluster frac, of car blockage and the Holland Tunnel. So no, they can't send any backup anything. And then something, I didn't see this, but the phalanx of cops who were all in their riot gear. Basically, somebody dropped something into. They had these big, metal boxes of 400 or 500 of those big, tear gas shells. Someone threw something in there to start them on fire, and they blew up, right? And one of the blew up right next to the SWAT truck, and it threw the SWAT truck down Pearl Street, knocked it off. The guys with the guns who were going to shoot us, they were thrown asunder, and the police were super duper toxed by the. And this stuff wasn't just tear gas; it was some like MX or some almost military grade stuff, and the cops got totally whacked by it. And what we did was the one street that was basically had the least cops was Water Street, and so the whole, however many thousand there were of us, we just in essence ran down that thing, went towards the ferry, got on the ferry, and went to Staten Island. So most of the people got away without being trampled, without being chemmed out or being beaten by the police. And we just kind of left it because, when this was all happening, I basically said, okay, we made our message. There's not much we can do. We can get out of here without dying. Let's do that. So I was already gone. I just lived down the street. So basically, I knew this, there weren't any alleys, but there were. If you knew where they were, there were these little teeny alleys between these gigantic tall streets. And so I had a few friends that said, come on, let's, I grabbed Ralston and this other girl and a few other people. And I said, let's get out of here. And because we weren't the leaders, I've never been a leader, just like, don't believe a word I say. And we went through that alley. We came out through this bar, and we then went up Water Street, came back around to Pearl, and went up into my loft, right? And just hung out there, right? And like I said, about 90% of everyone got away without being arrested or beat up, but the cops it was a mess. The cops had the worst day they could ever imagine, because it was all on their incompetence and their hubris. Oh, we got this. We're the cops. Look at all this great equipment we have. We'll just, we'll take these. And these people are stupid. They put themselves in a place where we're just going to kill them, And the powers to be said, yeah, go kill them. Normally, they're not so much for just killing you, but yeah, go ahead. So much history, so much mystery. No kidding. You wouldn't believe what's underground there. There's probably more underground in New York City than there is above, And so all of these things are metaphors to what's going on, meaning so that whole little passion play in front of Wall Street is being played out again today. And the whole thing of people's hubris and overconfidence in their powers is playing on today, right? And that's kind of what's going on. So that's why, some really heavy stuff is coming, because all of these trends that have been being played out for the last 12,000 years are coming right here, because this, we are no longer in the Piscean age. We are 100% in the Aquarian age. Everyone's consciousness is changing, and those reptile fossils, just hanging them by their fingernails. So, they'll do anything. Look what they did in the Dark Ages. They'd rather have 900 years of Dark Ages and keep control than to move on. If we had moved on, in, 400, because that's kind of when, the rebranding of the Roman Empire into the Holy Roman Empire was starting up until about, 700. And 700, to, let's see, 900 years back from 1100, it's, 400. So that little period, if they had allowed, between 400 AD and 1100 AD, if they had allowed things to move the way they were moving, we would have an amazing utopia, because this planet is the Garden of Eden. This planet is a planet of abundance, not of scarcity. This planet is a planet of freedom, and that's why our founding fathers, like I said, they must have been smoking crack and doing mushrooms when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, because it was a scam. It was still the same power structure as King George. It was just branded differently. The Anglo-American special relationship. So, there we are. And there's only two of you left. There, the height was maybe 6. So, Dragon, what do you think of all that? Janie Poo, what do you think? I really wish you would jump in here sometime and unmask yourself like the long, AI, you're like the Long Ranger here in the chorus, and I feel like you're Tonto. Have you guys seen The Long Ranger, the new one where Johnny Depp plays Tonto? That's me, wearing a bird on my head, right? So, so all the information's out there. I've given you, go watch, dark journalism. Go watch, Mr. Let's see. David Icke, he's good. Andrew Bacevich, Bacevich, Age of Illusion, Hidden History. Chris Hedges, another good one, right? Zerbo, Elizabeth Katie Stanton, right? She's pretty cool. The false history, how the magic works, how we are contracted, history, and where are we going? Our history, we're not allowed to know our history. We're given a cartoon motif of history. Chris Hedges, right? Death of the Liberal Class, mythic stories, shift of world based on imagery. But Chris Hedges, John Hillier, he's also very good. So we have to turn the fork, we have to tune the fork. That's what the cadre is about, tuning the fork. Wherever you are, there you are. We don't have to, organize like we did in the 70s and have movements and rallies. Do it in your own neighborhood. The issue, it's all microcosm, macrocosm. So whatever issue you have in your little neighborhood, work on that because that will affect the bigger picture. Yep, his story, right? So, so do you guys like the Grand Kazoo? I'm talking to you. That's when I can't get my laptop to work. I use my phone, and my phone can only, I have to make a video and I do export it and I put it on my channel. I mean, it's amazing. A 3-minute little thing I shoot on my phone takes about 4 hours to load up on my channel through the internet. So all of these shows, these are all shamanic ceremonies. Every time I do this, it takes a great deal of energy out of me. You may notice, as I do it, my voice changes a little bit, my breathing changes a little bit because, I'm doing a circle breath of 20, percent in and 30% out, and it really does. It changes my blood chemistry, and I pump it into the internet here, and I push it out towards you guys, right? And the other thing about it is that shamanic energy that I push into the internet, it doesn't, when I hit, end live chat, it doesn't go away. You go back and watch all of those shows. That's why I do so many, because at a point I'm not going to be here and they will be. And they will be. That's why I, suggest that you guys, save them for history, take them, put them on thumb drive, CD-ROMs, your hard drive, and take them and use them. I give you total permission. You have to co-create. I mean, just not use them, but, change them up a little, and I would love somebody to. Has anyone ever seen Science Fiction 3000, where this guy plays these 1950 B sci-fi movies on the screen, and then he puts, he chirons them, this other camera on top of, it's like a green screen on top of the 1950s movies, makes it look like these, he makes these robots, of coffee cans and cardboard boxes. And it's like Soupy Sales, who had, sock puppets. He had White Fang and Blacktooth. So he has this group of snarky robots doing a critique of the full movie, and they just cracking jokes the whole time. So I would love it if someone could put up a YouTube channel of my videos with doing the same thing with these, blue screen shadows of people talking about what I'm saying, making comments, right? Reading live chat and talking about it, and adding a critique to this, right? So you'd have to be pretty smart, you'd have to be pretty sharp, you'd have to have a pretty good sense of humor to do this, because otherwise you would, come up pretty bad. You'd have to be at least as funny as me, which wouldn't be that hard, but you'd have to do it in a way that elevated what I say, right? And so you'd have to be sensitive and co-creative with that shamanic energy that I dump into these shows, right? So that's a dragon. What did you say nope to? Because I've already lost the thread of whatever I was talking about. Uh, it's interesting. When 9/11 happened, right? The stupid police. There were about 20,000 people that were in Lower Manhattan when that happened, and they were like, engulfed in this gigantic cloud of asbestos. And so they decided that they were going to march everyone up to, uh, you know, Penn Station and have them take trains out of New York. Well, the problem with that was that most of those tunnels of those trains went right under the World Trade Center, right? So they marched them up about 4 or 5 miles up to Penn Station and then realized once that 20,000 people got there that they couldn't go anywhere. So the only thing that they had to get get those people off the island, other than marching them over the bridges, and then they'd be stuck in Queens and Brooklyn, was to put them on the ferries, which they should have done right off the bat, because that's exactly what we did when we were, taking over Wall Street, and then we had to vacate it before we got trampled by horses and, toxic, you know, icky stuff from the police and getting shot by the SWAT teams. We exited, turned left, got on the ferries, and which they didn't stop because there's really probably no more than 1,100, if that. We were about 1,000, if that. And they have about 10 ferries there at all time going, coming and back and go, to Staten Island and other places. And each of those boats can take 1,000, at least 500 people. So when we just walked down there, we just got on the ferries and they left, cost us $0.25, I think. So, and that's the level of incompetence that is going on right now in our government. And pretty much the government has always been that incompetent. It's not just carrot heads. He's took it to an art form because he is deconstructed. He's like Devo, dude. De-evolved all the. I'm going to go after the swamps. I'm going to get rid of the EPA, and I'm going to get rid of the, this, and I'm going to get rid of the Justice Department and the, Secretary of State, and blah 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 blah. The best person to put in charge of Secretary of State is the head of Exxon. That was a very good anti. Swampy thing. Oh, and I'm gonna, the guys I'm putting Larry Kleglow and these guys from Goldman Sachs. I'm gonna put them in the Treasury Department. Yeah, that'll get them unswampy. So the hand, that's why the hidden hand put Donald Trump in there, right, to make sure that when this shit goes down, which is going down right now, it'll be unbelievably screwed up to the point you won't believe it. Why do you think I'm living out in the middle of nowhere? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I saw these trends approaching. I didn't know when and at what level and what exactly is going to happen. But the market dropped 4,000 points, or 5,000 in 1 week, right? To show that, hey, this can happen, not a problem. Oh, and then it went back up 1,500 just to show that none of this matters. Just to show that, and all of the people who are the money, Mr. Hathaway, and all the top 50 richest men on this planet have nothing in Wall Street, nothing, very little, if anything, right? Mr. Bezos and you name it, all the really like 50 richest people, they got no exposure in any market, right? And so it doesn't exist, is what I'm saying. It's already been hollowed out, all the juice has been sucked out. So that's where we're at now, right? So at 1 minute and 1 hour, 20 minutes and 20 seconds, which is in about 2 minutes from now, I'm going to say, see you later. You know, no, the show you were speaking of. Oh, okay. So, sun doesn't make a strong shadow cycle is definitely less illumination. Yep. Sun's going down on me, Elton John. The other song, is it Elton John that did the song Tiny Dancer? Dancer, da, 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 or was it Jackson Brown, or, and that movie, We Were Once Famous, about the kid who's writing for Rolling Stone, and he's traveling on the tour of, Stenchy River, or something like that. Anyway, let's see. Here we're gonna almost be there. Yep. So tonight, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 7:30 to 8:30, depending on the weather. Like last night, I was gonna do something, but man, the thunderstorm that came through. I unplugged everything, so nothing got fried. Turned the lights out, opened the window, and it's unbelievable thunderstorm. And it was far away from here, because the lightning was all over the sky, and the sound came, 10, 20 seconds later. So it wasn't here, but boy, the lightning was, whoa. And I was going to video it, but, sometimes it's good not to document things, just to like sit in quiet space and let the event seep in, go deep, appreciate it. And I try to do that at least 5 or 6 times a day, and usually that's when I'm, meditating. Tennessee had a bad thunderstorm. 11 dead. Oh, yeah. Well, that was, I was watching it, It was, 20 miles away from where I was. Right? It was really, I was watching nature do its thing, and nature's kind of rebelling against all the crap we've done, all of the things we put in our environment. It's rebelling. Right? That's the other thing. Again, it goes back to that, pride and hubris and false confidence in our technology. Yeah, so we have technology that can blow up the planet. We have, so we've conquered space and time and dimensions, right? We have unlimited power through, 0 point energy. We have gone to other galaxies. We've gone to see them. We've conquered death, but we haven't accepted love's co-creation into our heart as a race, as a culture. You know, and until then, oh, it's not going to be a pretty sight. It's just going to get weirder and weirder, because that's what happens. Nature doesn't. Love's co-creation wants things to be balanced out. Doesn't like it to be imbalanced. So, yep, scary stuff. Yeah, I'm not worrying. I've got my guides, and if the powers that shouldn't be and they didn't want to be dead, man, there were so many times I'd be dead, right? If I was supposed to die, I died 6 times. So I'm still here, So I'm just not giving up, not giving in, and I'm always gonna be nice, right? Gonna be kind. Always gonna be kind, right? If they, and it's one of those things, like when I'm out and about and always talking to people about stuff that they really don't want, they need to know, but they don't want to hear it. right? So there's, they go through this like little catharsis, like a butterfly. Oh, they don't want to. No, no, no! Don't tell me. I don't want to. No, I'm going to run away. I'm going to stick my head in the sand. I'm locking myself in a closet, and I just keep talking until this little bing. I tune the fork. They come out. Okay, I actually feel better. I'm glad I actually face that. I'm glad and so I do that every day with lots of people. When I'm out there, if I'm going to be out there, I might as well do that. Let me read your palm. Oh man, you look here. It's okay. Just let me. There's a few points here. Let's place on your shoulder. Place on your hand. Right here. How do you feel now? My God, the pain is gone. I feel 100% better. Oh wow. I'm glad. You know. It's no miracle. It's called cranial sacral. There are other little disciplines. I understand. It's not magic. You know. And that's what I do. I talk to you guys. I'm the great kazoo. At least my alter ego is the great kazoo. I'm talking to you. I'm the great kazoo. No, the kazoo just left the building. I'm here now. So I love you guys, and I'll see you later this evening, as long as the weather, and the satellite dish and the gods of the internet allow. So AI, catch you later, buddy. And remember, tell Jeff Bezos I'll sell him, uh, you know, Griot Publishing for 200 million. Right? Yep. Yep. That's right, Dragon. I try to be, my funny self. I do my best. All right. The major thing about being funny is not. I never take myself serious ever. You know. And so I used to act in New York, and I would always have whatever part I played. I always played it as a funny guy. If it was the heavy, the mean guy, I only played I played the ingenue way more than I played the hero. You know, there was a period I had some friends who wore dresses all the time, and I would, and they would go to the drag clubs uptown and the ones in the West Village, and it was kind of interesting because I had black friends. The black clubs uptown were were better, more fun, better music, better dancing. White clubs, they were okay, but again, it had, but they were like being their fathers or their mother. It was very strange. But I went to both because I had friends in both those groups, and I wired their clubs and did stuff like that. And I would walk in as myself, but there was a period, when I kind of was in the rainbow scene. There was one period, and I went to Scotland with Archie, and those guys wear kilts, and they have longer ones too. I like the longer kilts than the short ones, and I started wearing those for a whole year. I wore those, right, as an electrician, as activist, as going out dancing, going to a restaurant, going out with my girlfriend, and it was like there was a period of time. A friend of mine, my friend who started What Do You Want in Asheville, Stefan, he he decided he was going. He went for a whole year, never saying a word. He had a little pad. He would write things and do that, but he wouldn't speak, right? And and that was quite amazing. And he did it. I mean, he had discipline. Anyway, I mean, to become world famous bicycle racer and make a lot of money at it, that takes a lot of discipline. And then he just quit it, and became an artist, and and then he, started this business. What do you want? So Stephen was quite the amazing guy, and that's why Asheville was pretty interesting then because there were a lot of people like him. and nobody else. The place was dead on the doornail. Kind of looked like China does now with the virus, right? So anyway, so I'm gonna pack it in. Let's see. Oh, look at that! 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 30 seconds. I'm going to the show off, okay? And then I'll see you tonight between 7:30 and 8:30, probably at 8, but somewhere in between. Look for me into the east.